now going to hear from Trehan Stenton. Trehan is a citizen of the world. Interestingly enough, he told me that he'd recently sold every asset that he owns, and he's just travelling around the world with a suitcase and a will to improve things. Trehan's going to be speaking to us about the importance of thinking big with IT. Thanks, Trehan.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. My name's Trehan, a very difficult name to pronounce, to remember, and even for me to remember. It's actually a made-up name. I was saying before, it comes from India or Cornwall, but you can call me anything you like, as long as it starts with T. I'm kind of in the general direction. I feel kind of today that I haven't got as great stories, particularly as the boys have over here. They're kind of army stories, they're excellent stories. Mine's a little bit more boring, but hopefully it will still be relevant to you in terms of what my message is for you today. First, I'd like to thank everybody for taking the risk and opportunity to come down here today and share our social space. It's a changing environment at the moment. I think having flexibility, keeping your mind open, and what I want to talk about, dreaming big, maybe is a great opportunity for all of us at the moment. So dreaming big for me is taking a risk and maybe getting flack from everybody else and people not liking you. Dreaming big is not easy. It's hard work. It involves a lot of energy and self-confidence that you are doing what you think you want to do. Dreaming big is about being confident in your own ability and standing on your own 2 feet and providing leadership to enable us to do that. And I think at the moment with the coronavirus happening, leadership's probably where we really need to step up to as leaders, because people are looking for people to provide guidance, to provide safe environments, and to provide a sense of security. And this is kind of exactly what I've just been dealing with this morning with our teams. We run 3 dental practices in central Queensland, and I'm not a clinician, so I'm not as smart as the clinical people that are in the room. But what I do know is that we need to help and support our teams in the best way that we possibly can, because we're going to ride this out and it's going to be fine. It's just how we kind of work through it. When I think about dreaming big, I kind of think, well, why do I dream big? And I'm a Kiwi, obviously. And I went at school, primary school. I was bullied quite a lot, and clearly I'm a little bit different, so I stood out from the rest of everybody else. And when I went to high school, it was the same as well. I felt like I was a minority at school. I didn't kind of act the same way. I wasn't part of the first 15, the first 11. There wasn't jazzagetics at school, so I wasn't any good at any of that kind of stuff. And I kind of clustered on the outside of the school. And I found an ally. His name was Terence. He was Chinese, so he was an outer as well. And we grouped together, and we managed to navigate our way through the school system by finding ways of getting out of things. So we would write notes that we wouldn't do physical exercise. We had running every morning with little shorts on that chafed something badly. So anything I could do to get out of that. Terence was smart. He would induce nosebleeds, and he was like, yes, so we would get out of it. Great character. I still admire him to today for that kind of skill and that ingenuity. So what that kind of led me to believe that I felt very comfortable on the outer. I felt that who I am and what I do is okay. And I wasn't academically smart. I really struggled. I didn't even pass school certificate, which is year 10 English. I'm doing marketing. But as long as I knew genuinely that what I was doing was the best that I could possibly do, that's as good as I could get. And from that kind of strength, I find that I'm now it's really been, that kind of weakness is now my strongest strength, because I know that when I want to do things and be courageous and talk differently to people about things, that I'm coming from a place of integrity and trust, and I'm doing it for the right reasons. So let's leave Palmerston Boys High School behind in the field, and I moved through, I graduated from there and I went to Polytechnic, and I've been at university, and I did some marketing stuff and some hotel stuff. And then I worked across a range of businesses that was very interesting, and probably not at the time until you leave it do you recognise what skills you kind of got when you're doing different things. But what resonated for me when I was doing these range of roles, from operational roles to strategic roles, was customer focus. And for me, customer focus is everything I kind of think about every day. And this morning I'm advocating as well in our workplace around customer focus. Because in all of those roles, I kind of put myself in the place of the customer and thought, well, what is the experience that they want to deliver? How do they want to kind of feel? If I'm looking at the end-to-end experience, what does that actually mean? Are the touch points correct? Is the messaging correct? Are the way in which we articulate the messages correct? Because that's really important for us to understand that. And I find in customer, and this is not a put down of Australia, but it is a reflection I feel, particularly here in Queensland, the voice of the customer is very quiet. And I think the reason is because a lot of people haven't travelled a lot, or they haven't experienced different things, or their education's relatively limited, and therefore they don't know what good service is. So when I talk to my team about good service, I say, okay, well, we run dental practices, but I never thought of it as a dental practice. And the whole time, even now, I still don't think of it as a dental practice. I think of it somewhere that we look after people, we nurture them, we give them good service, and we wrap around care around that whole experience. So I talked to them about when I fly Virgin Australia, which I will hopefully keep on flying, fingers crossed, that I love the experience on board, the way the staff react to me. I enjoy calling American Express call centre because their service is really good. So from a telephony perspective, it's good. And when I go to a good restaurant, I want to really say, okay, go and experience what great service is. Because if you experience it, you know how to give it. And that's part of the challenge I kind of find of being customer focused, that actually one staff member said to me, well, why should we want to change? Things seem to be okay. Why do you change things all the time? I'm like, well, people's expectations change, and they don't judge us as a dentist. They actually judge us by their call centre experience they had at American Express. With Virgin Australia, when maybe they checked into the Ritz-Carlton, if you're lucky enough to stay at one of those, and the experience that you have there. So people's judgment of our service is not what we think it is, but it's actually what the customer thinks it is. So in light of that kind of thinking, we built this practice, and it was established, the first one was established in 2012. 2 years later we opened another one in 2014, and then 2016 opened another practice. Having in mind that I have no dental experience, but I just focused on the customer need and delivered it. What I found was important was understanding why I'm doing this kind of business, and I want to tell you a story, and if I cry, it's going to be okay. When we built our first practice, it's not supposed to happen, but it gets me every time. When we built our first practice, we were doing a procedure called a lip and tongue tie. Is anybody familiar with a lip and tongue tie? Have you heard about it? Or a frenectomy? It's basically when you're born as a child, you have a restriction of the mouth and the palate. And it means that you can't feed properly, predominantly for children. So they're not latching properly and not sucking properly, they're not putting on weight appropriately, they're not sleeping at night. As a result of them not sleeping at night, mums and dads are not sleeping at night, and it's very disruptive. The child's development will slow down as well, their IQ everything will kind of slow down, and if it's not addressed, we're going to have long-term problems in terms of the oral facial construction and muscles in the mouth, speech, what else can we say? Long-term health influences on them. What happens is when patients who have this condition, can be up to 5% of the population have it, that they're told that it's not a problem. Just get over it. They'll grow out of it. Well, then you never grow out of it, you just grow with it. They're told that, oh, maybe you're just not good at breastfeeding, it's just not the thing you're kind of doing, or should stop doing it. So by the time the patients come to see us, they are at the end of their tether. They are very upset, they are tired, the whole family's tired, and the worst thing that really gets me is the mother feels guilty. And for a newborn mother to feel guilty about something that's kind of not right, and then being told by GPs and all these specialists that it's their fault, has a significant impact on me. And so when I was in the practice one day, fortunately, and the mother breastfed her child, and this is the first time the child had latched and suckled. And to see that and experience the joy of the mother and the relaxation of the child, as it was its first time that it was properly able to connect in the natural way it should do, and breastfeeding was world-changing for me. Because at that point in time, I recognised that my purpose in life is to make a difference. I want to make a difference on a daily basis, and one way I can do that is through offering services that allow a child to suckle and to reach its natural potential because we've allowed it to. And from that point on, I then made a connection between, okay, well, I like to dream big. I can see where I can make the change. How do I go about doing it? So that's kind of where I made the connection to IT. Now, I'm not an IT person. I can't write code. I don't even understand it. I kind of know about architecture, but I really don't. But I know that if I can dream this stuff, like I want to do for these mums and these families, I can get IT to help me deliver that. And so that's about dreaming big, but really not knowing what to do. So in light of this, we created, got on board a CRM, a customer relationship management tool, that allowed me to build workflow, which would allow pre-communication, during and post-communication to mums, had videos about what they should expect before they come in, exercises after they've come in, surveying after it as well. So I kind of wrapped up this lovely service bundle and I was like, that's excellent. We then built a practice that had soundproof rooms. I had staff that are specialising in doing this, and we do six to 8 of these procedures every Monday. And I still celebrate the fact every time I go to the practice that I've got a nurture room that's soundproofed, and I fill it full of music, and it's a great experience for everybody. So that kind of drives me every day because I know I'm making a difference. However, having these dreams is a really great thing to have. But I've made heaps of errors. Like, I've made so many errors. I mean, probably all of you together probably isn't the amount of errors that I've made in my life. But it's kind of added to what I call my toolkit of where I can kind of pull things from and help provide solutions. So kind of the first thing I want to talk about is I want to talk to you about kind of some of the things I've done that have kind of worked well. And then of those things I've done that haven't worked so well, and what would I do differently? Because I would like you to kind of learn from my experience. You're all smart people, so I'm not going to teach you to suck eggs or anything, but maybe my approach may happen, or even the philosophy of having a dream and knowing that you personally can live that dream is possible for everybody. Let me just check my notes because I've got lots of great things to talk about. Okay. I want to talk about a service that we provide, which is snoring. And this is a new service that we set up. So does anybody snore in this room? Not that you're going to tell me. Come on. Does anybody partner tell you that you snore? Oh, lovely. Excellent. We've got some honesty here in the room. That is excellent. But snorers don't usually admit to it, unfortunately. And a snorer is obviously sound asleep, so they're not aware of all the impact they have on everybody else around them. Now, if you're aware, snoring, it may seem like it's kind of a straightforward thing, it's not a problem, but it's about 10% of the population have a snoring-related issue. If a child is a snorer and a significant snorer, or has a bad snoring habit, at some particular age, their age will increase, but their IQ will not increase. So it has a really big kind of effect. For partners, 80% of partners that are bad snorers don't sleep in the same bedroom. So you've kind of got relationship issues that you're having there as well, and there's long-term health implications of not snoring, which relate to heart. Your life expectancy is 10 years less than what you were if you're a snorer. Now, sleep apnea, the wider area is called sleep apnea, and I'm not a clinician, so I'm just going to talk in my terms, so you're welcome to jump in anywhere and correct me at any time. Sleep apnea, and there's a sub-segment of people that are snorers that can be treated. So we kind of recognise that. With our lip and tongue tie procedure, we had a lovely laser machine that we use, and we can repurpose this. It's designed to be able to do snoring as well. So we're like, okay, well, in my mind, running the business, right, here's another opportunity to kind of meet a customer need, to build happier and healthier communities. So we started to use this snoring treatment. So off I went 2 years ago. Great, excellent, let's go and do it. We'll do some marketing. I'm kind of okay at that stuff. And we generated leads, and they came in, and then the patients came into the practice, and some of them had the procedure and some didn't because they weren't suitable, and then we did the procedure and we did a money back guarantee because we thought that was a good idea. And then as we learnt more about this procedure, that we were like, oh, well, these people are not the right people that we're kind of getting. But penny didn't drop for a while for me until I started to know that while I wasn't seeing the pipeline activity, I wasn't kind of seeing where people were falling out of it. And they were coming in for consult, but they weren't rebooking. And maybe they were rebooking, but they weren't completing their treatment. And maybe they completed their treatment, but then they wanted a refund. So I had a raft of kind of issues I was dealing with here, and I kind of, and I recognised that we were doing the right thing by our patients. You know, we were not clinically out of the bounds of what we should be doing, and we were giving money back guarantees, so we were doing it with integrity, but it wasn't working. So my learning was out of this one. When something goes wrong like this and you can't get visibility of what's happening, start with the basic process. So what is the end-to-end process associated with snoring? So, you know, when we get these patients, we're finding that they're not right type of patient. They are either got a weight problem, which causes issues to do with snoring. They're either smokers or drinkers, and all those three things impact their clinical outcomes. So we started to build some workflow that would allow people to do some surveying, and then we could kind of narrow them down and go, you kind of look like you might be okay. Not sure about you. Definitely no, you need to go to a nutritionist, or you need to stop smoking or doing something like that. In a nice kind of way, of course. And it's kind of hard to say, yeah, they were way too fat, it's not going to touch you. So we started to do that, so that was kind of good. And then we looked at the process, and we were having problems with staff being accountable for their stuff that they should be doing. So we did this big long exercise of mapping the whole process and understanding who's doing what. It was like a 20-page document. Oh, that looks great on paper, right? Yeah, nobody wanted to read it. Oh, it's really boring. It's hard work. So then we kind of had to go, well, how are we going to get them to do it? So we created cheat sheets. So we looked at their particular role, and this is how you cheat on doing what you need to do. These are the bare basic stuff that you need to do. So we've implemented that. And then I had pipeline issues. So these leads that were coming in, if I got 10 leads coming off Facebook, which is expensive, it's a lot of money. I was spending $1,500 on getting 10 leads, and only of those 3 were suitable. So I'd kind of wasted those 7 leads. So then we're now, what I'm actually doing now in real time is I'm now working out how do I get the right kind of patients. The whole time we were doing this process, I kind of thought I had it under control, but no, I didn't, because I wasn't measuring the conversions. So what I want to say to you is, if you want to look at your sales pipeline, make sure you've got the right metrics in there to measure your sales pipeline. Make sure that people are updating it, particularly in the sales and service area. If you're using another system, are they tracking the patients through that system? Because at the end of the day, I'm going to end up wasting money, which I'm probably still doing at the moment, on leads that I actually don't want, that I need to have. That was a great learning for me, and it kind of recognised in my mind, it's all very well to say that you're in marketing or sales, and yes, I'm a marketer, it's great, I can bring in all these leads. But unless I know that the back-end process of my business is working properly, that I've got the proper processes in place, I've got the proper job description, I've got the proper accounting, it's all wasted. So now when I think about what I'm going to do, I'm thinking, great, it's lovely that I've built this beautiful TV commercial. Oh, I've done this radio ad, that's wonderful, and it makes me look great. But actually, is the operation ready for this? Are the guys trained? Do they know what they're doing? Do they have the right process in place? And if they don't, what do you do? So I don't know, what do you do if it's not working properly? Any ideas what you'd want to do? If you want to run a campaign, you don't think everything's working properly, what's the logical thing you might try? Any ideas? Well, you might test and trial it maybe. So you might say, well, I know this front bit of the process works fine, so maybe the filtering bit needs to be worked on first. So let's test and trial that and see how that one works, because if I'm managing the ones that come into the pipeline, then I can hold them more tightly closer on that. So that's kind of the process for a new product acquisition. It's challenging. There are many variables. We don't know what we're doing. My thing is, if you can dream it, it can be done. Take a pragmatic approach to it, test and trial it, and then make sure when you get it in there, you can get feedback and you can measure and monitor it. If it's not working, do not be afraid to cut it. You know, fail quickly all the time. If things are not working properly, iterate or move on quickly and see what else you can do. That's kind of my recommendation for my learning of the mistakes that I make every day. Another service I want to kind of talk to you about, the next one is swapping out core infrastructure. So, who's swapped out any core infrastructure here? Anybody had the joy of that? Excellent. How was that experience?
It was one of the worst experiences of my life.
Yes. Our life, yes. And why was it so bad?
Let's It's a multi-layered answer, but I think the complexity in the culture changing at the rate that the technology is changing, superimposed over the fact that any large-scale technology changes are largely superseded within the next couple of years in the current context anyway, particularly with the exponential growth of tech in its current form. So you're trying to get ahead, but you're fighting a game where the technology is outdated by the time it's installed, particularly on large-scale
Yes,
rollouts.
yeah. And is it an IT thing? Is a change out an IT thing, or is it something else?
No, in my opinion, you can have the greatest technological solution available, but if you don't focus on the people, then you have almost a zero chance of success.
And why is focusing on the people important?
Well, the people are going to implement at the end of the day, but they're also going to be the ones that will be the greatest obstacles if they don't feel like changing, or if they're not enabled to change to a new process or procedure.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Good answer. That's an A+. Very good. Has everybody else had those kind of issues or problems with implementing any kind of technology where you found out you thought it might be the technology, it's going to be the silver bullet, but it wasn't?
Humans have got an innate ability to find the easiest way to do things. And if you're implementing any software package, IT, physical transition, anything like that, and you've got a way that needs steps along the way to proceed to do it, and you as a leader are sitting there saying we need these steps to occur, the humans that work for you will, if that's a harder way than to get to the end outcome, they will miss the steps. Every cycle, 100% of the time. So, leading into what you guys are saying there is it's a change management process, again, leading into Dave's stuff, context, making sure everyone understands why we're doing all these other steps along the way. That's the hardest part. You never get anything else through. And sometimes those nuances that humans, having them involved in that development of those changes is really important, because you can look on the outside and go, this is the best outcome we can have at the end, but it might not be the easiest or best way. So you've got to let it loose sometimes and have that as a process. But if you don't build that understanding that you are in for change on the way, you'll fail every time.
Yes, yeah, it's a really good point, I think. And you've obviously been involved in projects that have been of that nature, I'm assuming. Plenty of times. Congratulations, that's great. How do you feel at the end if it's not? How do you feel when it's working well or when it hasn't worked well? What's the feeling for you been?
It depends on what part of the stack you're in. At the end of the day, if you're at the top of the tree and you're sitting there going, look, it has a result, there's a kind of cost-benefit analysis that's covered where we want it to, then you're sitting there going, with success. It could be minor percentages, it could be great percentages, you just don't know. But that's the risk of making the choice to make the decision to move on that. You're never going to just pick out a success point if you're trying to achieve a singular success point on a major linear scale of things. Then you're doing it for the wrong reasons. So you've got to have multiple success points.
Yes, because it kind of helps a team as well that you kind of know you're hitting milestones.
Sam's thing, the stack that she's done with all of the teamwork integrations, all of those things through the whole work stack. I mean, everything's got to be touched. And from a leadership perspective, you need to see improvement in all of it. You can't just sort of pick out one thing, not on a large scale.
Yeah, and I guess the reality is we're not superhumans and we are infallible and there are going to be mistakes made, I guess, is kind of what I think we need to recognise as well. But I think if we come back to a truth, if we do go off track, then we can come back to a truth on why we're doing what we're doing. So when we were looking at, we have in a dental practice, we have a software Exact that we have. It's a core practice software, so it takes the bookings, it manages the billing, it does all the clinical notes. So it's everything that we kind of run on it. And of course I was dreaming big, right, as I kind of do, and I want to do great things, and I'm in Moranbah and I'm trying to do great things. And I had a dream that we would have a practice management software that would be open data that we'd have data flowing and doing whatever we wanted to do, that we'd be able to change between our 3 practices very easily, and we'd be able to manage patients so simply, and that our staff would find it easy to use, and our patients would get relevant and timely information when they needed it the most time. So if we've done an extraction of a tooth on that same day, maybe before they come to us for an extraction, we're saying, look, you're going to have an extraction, make sure somebody comes with you to take you home because it may be painful. And then on the day, look, you're going to be sore today, but actually here's some things you need to do. You need to not gargle, you need to gargle, or you don't need to smoke. Is that right? I don't know. I'm not smart, remember. And then on the day after, you might be feeling like this. So if I can do that and provide a great touch point for our patients, then we are keeping them nice and close and sticky to us, and we're also caring for them in a way in which our vision for our business is. So that was kind of my dream. So I would go to, I went to ADX, which was last weekend. I went 2 years ago in Sydney, and I talked to these vendors about software, and I was like, okay, I've got this dream, I'd like to have data. Oh yeah, you know what they say? Oh yeah, that's right, that's on the pipeline. That's going to come down some say. Or yeah, I understand what you mean, but actually no, that's too hard, we're not going to go and do it. So I kind of got all these excuses of why people would not do what my dream was. So I've been relentless and kind of, well, I'm sure if I can dream it, something can happen approach to things. I went to America. And in America, of course, everything's bigger, better, and slightly cheaper. And and that's the way they roll. And I love the American people. They're kind of unabashful, and they're proud of success. And they inspired me that, yes, I can do this stuff, and don't be ashamed of being, doing what you want to do. So we kind of did that. And I met a vendor there that actually has a software here in Australia that's been replicated called Ultimo. And through that, I started a process of a journey with the vendor to talk about what my dreams were and where I wanted to take them. And last month, we implemented it. So it was 2 years later, we implemented this new platform. And remarkably, it's kind of gone well. We're the first people in Australia to do this migration from this software to this one. And of course I was nervous. I mean, the team, I'm fortunate to have a great team that will follow me. They trust me, and I look after them. But if I didn't, I'd have some problems. But we migrated the system. But what I kind of recognised from that journey is that I needed to, like we talked about, engage the team as we were going along. So part of this process that we did was to make sure we're confirming what our vision and values were, because this change needed to align to what our values and vision was. And what we're here to do in our job, and I talk to our staff all the time, is about creating happier and healthier communities. So we kind of position that's where we want to go, and how will that software help us do that? Well, once we talked about that, they were on board fully and like, okay, when are you going to get it in? I'm like, I don't know, I just need to kind of work through it. It's the first time it's been done. So we've got it in and it's going. The learning I had from that one, and the mistakes that I made, is maybe I didn't manage the vendors as tightly as I should. They were uncertain about what they were doing, and because I'm a big thinker, I maybe didn't provide them with enough context. And this is one of the things I kind of think we talked about this morning in terms of when you think big or dream big, it's great, but a lot of people just don't understand what you're saying. And I realised this 20 years ago when I was working at New Zealand Post, and I'd have these big visions of where the business was going. It was rapidly going like this. And I'd talk to people and they'd just stare at me like, ugh, I don't know what you're talking about. And the fault wasn't theirs, it was my fault. It was my fault because I didn't provide the colour and the context to what my dream was. I didn't explain it in different ways. I didn't kind of say, well, you're kind of more audio and you're more visual. Right, let's share this dream with you and show you how it's going to look and feel. I didn't do any of that. I just think, oh, I'm here by myself. I was by myself at school. I'm kind of here by myself as well. I'll just kind of barrel along. But once I provided that context and colour to the team, they understood the vision and then they had the buy-in for it. So for me, the biggest learning is if you do like to think big, you do like to have big dreams, provide that context to your team, and that will help them see where their role is, because everybody wants to make a difference in the workplace. People don't, I believe, come to work to do a bad job. They come to work to see how they can contribute to it. And it's my fault if I do not provide them that context about how their role, their individual role, influences our outcome of creating happier and healthier communities. At the end of the day, buck stops with me, and if it's not working, I've got to address it. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. So that's for our deployment. what would I do differently if I was doing a deployment like this? I would probably spend more time with vendor management. I wouldn't not take a risk though. And I had a plan that if I knew if I roll it out into one practice and it stuffed up, you know what, I can back it back out and I can reverse it out. I've still got the other 2 practices going and I can continue. So that was my strategy for managing IT. Contain it, it will be okay. My other message to you is, and it's even more relevant at the moment, and I just thought about it, is in time everything passes. So at the moment in today and what we're dealing with, it may seem a problem, it may be bigger than Ben-Hur, but if you take a step back, and as I've got older, I probably think I'm one of the oldest ones in the room, I've become more pragmatic about these issues that I'm dealing with, and I let it settle, and I listen to what people have to say, and I reflect on it, and I tell them, don't worry, in time everything will pass and we will be fine. And that's a good message, I think, at the moment for us as we deal with the coronavirus. Everything will pass and we will be fine. It will be okay. That's around IT. The last one I want to talk to you about an experience, and I'm not sure if you're familiar with this concept, but I kind of like it, is a customer journey. Has anybody done a customer journey or had a customer journey? Are familiar with what a customer journey might be? Have? Yes, great one here. A customer journey, oh excellent as well. How would you like to describe a customer journey?
I guess it's all the components of the service delivery or product. So it's everything from the very concept of when they sort of identified the need, as well as all of the interactions, as well as the follow-up and post interaction.
That deserves like a bottle of hand gel for such a good answer. Congratulations, that's a perfect answer. I'll disinfect it before I give it to you. Hand hygiene. That was a great answer. Very good, that is perfect. I mean, that is what it is. So from my perspective, when I think about it, it's the raising awareness of the product to start off with. Do people know they have a need? Oh, do you know that snoring is a problem? Really? Oh shit, really? Is it snoring? Oh, I didn't know that. Or maybe I'll search out and find some options for snoring. Okay, so I've looked at some options and now there's some product offerings. So I'm offering some products and then I'm attracting to the business, then I'm welcoming to the business. I'm stepping through this pipeline. A customer journey is a really good thing if you want to be customer focused to think about. It helps you put yourself in the place of your customer and you think like a customer. And that's always a good place to be, except if your business doesn't think like it and you're seen as like a target for everybody that seems that you're just being nasty to everybody. But don't go with that one. Customer journey is excellent and you can explain to your team why they are great. It's because it helps them deliver the best product and service they can. Because if we know all the steps of the interactions a patient has with us, we can work out, well, who's responsible for which bit of it and how do they make a difference to create a happier and healthier community in their own role. So once again, I had this big dream of I must dream a lot, I guess. I had this big dream that I wanted to create these customer journeys. So I went and talked to marketing people. Okay, they were leaders in the dental world around marketing here in Australia. And one of them said to me, customer journey, that's got nothing to do with marketing. And he hung up on me. I was like, okay, see you, buddy. And then I talked to some CRM. So I actually talked to some big CRM, international CRM companies. They kind of understood it, but they're like, oh, that's too difficult. Nah, we can't do that. Anyway, so off to America I went again to another dental conference. Maybe this was in Chicago. If anybody hasn't been to Chicago, I recommend it's a wonderful city and the pizzas are excellent as well. So when you're having a great pizza there, you're going to meet some great people that can talk to you about customer journey. So when I went there, they were like, oh, customer journey, that's great. And they understood it. So I felt that, even though I was on the outer from school that I thought differently, actually there are other people that thought differently like me as well, and that resonated. So from that I got confidence that, yes, I'm on something right here. So we started building out customer journeys, 35 to 40 steps, which was a patient experience. Great experience, really good, and once again, time consuming, long and involved processes. People didn't really go on the journey because it was really hard to do, but we kind of got there in the end. One of my team members, Ashley, she's great, she's Scottish, she had never had any involvement in technology, would come to me and she cried. I made her cry. This is another bad thing I've made my staff do, is cry, because she didn't understand the story of what I was doing with this customer journey. And I was asking her to implement this customer journey, but once again, I hadn't provided the context and the colour with it. So once we'd mapped it out and we built it all out at the beginning, she got the idea behind it, and now she's the advocate for me, and I don't even need to promote it because she understands the value in it. What would I do again if I was looking at customer journeys? I would really what I would love to do is to get my staff to my team to kind of work through a customer journey as if they were the customer themselves. So one way I'm trying to do that is introduce our patients into the practice that have had an experience that hasn't been an ideal customer journey, to talk about that journey. Because there's nothing more confronting for a team member to hear how the experience is from the patient that they look after, but in a positive framework that, okay, every problem or every negative thing is actually an opportunity or a gift for improvement. And if we take that kind of stand, then we can deliver against giving a really great customer journey. I'm conscious of time here and I can talk forever. So in a kind of a summary of what I'd like to talk about today, I'd all encourage you to think and dream big. And whatever that dream is that you're doing, make it big, make it as big as you possibly can. Engage with your team. Fill in that colour of that dream of what you want to achieve, and know how that links back to you as a person. Because if you believe in it fundamentally, for me, making a difference on a daily basis is what I want to do. If I dream big, I connect technology to that. And I don't know the technology bits, how they all work, but if I find the right smart people, like you guys are in the room, I find the smart people that can do it, we can kind of achieve anything of any magnitude you want to do. So go out there, think big, and thank you very much for your time today. It's been lovely to meet all of you, and get out there and do it. Thank you.